This is the Post Shift Podcast, a raw look at the hospitality industry.
What's happening, Post Shifters? This week's episode's a little bit longer than usual, but this is a interview I did, not actually performing it. I actually got interviewed, which is nice for a change, for Eat This, Drink That, with Hugh Kruzel. So, hope you enjoyed the episode. I am back in Victoria this week, thank God. I've been away for 7 weeks now. Really looking forward to being home for a month, and then I'm back in Singapore again for another 6 to 8 weeks. So, to all my favorite places in Victoria, looking forward to being home and coming and visiting you guys pretty heavily. So, hope you enjoy this episode. Have a good week, guys. Bye.
In Victoria, this is Eat This, Drink That, a program about food, drink, and quality of life. Where are we today? Not just in Victoria, but here at Shane Devereaux's Habit on Pandora, one of the classics, one of the anchors of the coffee culture here in Victoria, British Columbia. You're listening to 96.7 on your FM dial. CKLU is also available on the web at cklu.ca. My guest today, someone I've had contact with for a long time. Indirectly, although we've never actually worked together. It's incredibly that never happened in all these years. Shawn Soole. Shawn Soole is, when we talk about classics in this town, you were at Clive's Classic
Lounge, but I took over 6 months after. I actually wasn't there when they opened.
Well, that's unusual because you are an opener.
I am an opener.
And a closer,
and
too.
a closer, too. No, I came on at Clive 6 months after they opened. So they opened up in February. I think I came on in May or June. That was 2009 when I took over that. And I was at Moxie's for 3 years before that.
With Lindsay?
Yeah, I think that's where we first met.
God, Lindsay has been there for how many years now?
Lindsay started working at Moxie's Campbell River when he was 16 years old. He moved to Victoria, I think, at 20 and was a busser at the Moxie's Grill on Vancouver and Yates. He was general manager by the time I was there, which was 26. And we're the same age. And we're born 4 days apart, too, I think. So, yeah, he was general manager. And then he bought it from Frank. I would say
2006.
No, I think it was about 2010, 2011. Oh. So it's been a while too. So he's been a Moxie's boy since like
forever,
since birth.
Wow.
And so he bought it from Frankie and
dependable food.
Always.
Although at the same time ready to mix it up a little.
Yep. I think Moxie's is sort of finally getting onto the franchise bandwagon about not being the same every single time. I think Cactus Club and Earl sort of kick that off in the franchise mindset, knowing that like you have to be dependable and I don't want to say repetitive, but dependable and consistent. But then you can change it up at times because that's what the clientele is looking for these days. And so adapting to what the clientele is looking for in this day and age, like the menus aren't as big as they used to be. They're a little bit slimmer down. They know that doing quality over quantity and not having a million different styles of dishes is
and yet having some core things that
and classics that people that always will go back for. Yes. You know, the mum and dad will go back for every Friday night, and grandma and grandpa will go back every Friday night at 6 o'clock with a reservation.
Yes.
Eat the exact same thing, wear the exact same thing.
Table.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know, I want that table. Of course, you want.
And there's
table.
enough exposed brick and running water and
which is hard because like I've talked to Lindsay about what he would do to renovate that space,
and he'd say nothing.
And that's the thing is he's like, if I modernize it, I think it would be it's a big room to modernize.
2 levels.
2 levels with the mezzanine upstairs.
I don't remember how much seating there is upstairs.
There's about 35 seats upstairs for private functions. We've got a 65-seat deck, 160 seats inside. They did the lounge a couple of years ago, which I think was a nice touch. But that space would be really hard to like modernize without just like all that faux stone work and all that sort of stuff. The old Italian med grill sort of style. It's a big space to...
It sure is.
Would be expensive and a big space to renovate.
Now, this is Hugh Kruzel, and you're listening to 96.7 on your FM dial. The reason that Hugh, talked to Shawn here at Shawn Soole here at Habit in Pandora, because Shawn knows about restaurants. He knows about how they work, how they tick, how, in some cases, how they don't work, and how to make them better. And how to maybe adapt to what the market is demanding. You opened Little Jumbo.
I did do Little Jumbo in 2013. I realized after I did Pagliacci's last year with Solomon.
That was your job?
That was my job as well. With Solomon.
I think we did talk about it.
Solomon
Yes.
did all the back of house stuff, like the bar area. Me and Sol worked on together. When we opened that was seven restaurants in 5 years that I've either consulted on, opened, worked on, rebranded, like helped, and that's not including the little peripheral stuff. So from Little Jumbo in 2013 to Cafe Mexico, full build out for Cafe Mexico.
That's right. You were working on that. I remember
that was a 2-year project.
You were actually stocking the bar last time that you and I really had a chat. It was the last sort of sequence of events to open.
Yeah.
It was like, well, I have to buy, like, I don't know, what was it, 17 different kinds of tequila for that.
When we opened, we had 85 to 100 different tequilas and mezcals. Now I think they're breaking into about 120, 125, which is nice. But that one was we opened that in 2017. Yeah. And so then, like, the 7 restaurants in 5 years was like, we gutted the Japanese Village lounge, and I put that in. So I designed and built the Japanese Village, and we ripped out the sushi bar, put in a brand new lounge in there. Cafe Mexico was the big project. Pags was a big, Pagliacci's was a big
Long
project. Yeah, well, there's always been a restaurant in that space.
Yes.
For 100 and something years. So you can imagine, like, digging down over a layer of flooring, then you've got a layer of flooring with mechanical underneath that don't get used anymore. So that's going to get ripped out. Then you go down another layer of flooring, and then more mechanical.
So you're not just the concept person. You're putting some sweat equity into this.
Oh yeah, like I do a lot of. Most of my designs are all hand drawn. So like Cafe Mexico is all hand drawn. And conceptualized. I'm doing the new Marydale distillery as well over in Vic West, so I did all the service areas and the bar areas there. A lot of the times, like, that's one of the reasons why I went back to school, is because people get in this mind frame that I'm just the cocktail guy. You just go in, do the training, create the cocktails.
You have a book on cocktails, and I think that's probably
why.
Slot yourself into that.
Don't get me wrong, like it pays the bills and it keeps me. It's my bread and butter. But
what is the name of the book again?
Cocktail Culture.
Cocktail Culture.
And my second one,
Shawn Soole.
My second one comes out in August. So I'm writing my second one. Yeah, I'm writing my second one right now.
Fantastic. Published by
Mixellany in the UK.
And available here through Indigo.
It will be, hopefully. I'm going to have to do a lot of my own legwork on that one. But it's called Great Northern Cocktails, so it's very similar to Cocktail Culture, but across all of Canada. So 150 to 200 bartenders across the country that are, like, rounding up cats to try and get recipes and bios and stuff off.
Of course. Difficult.
Yeah, so I'm getting that all.
Unless you catch them at 2 a.m.
Oh, not even then.
Oh.
But yeah, so I'm writing that right now, which is. But yeah, so it is my bread and butter. But, like, I do concept hand design, construction work, all the specs out. I really enjoy that sort of stuff.
Now, I'm sure the audience can hear you have an accent. Can you tell? I mean, you weren't born here on Vancouver Island. Unless that's some southern Vancouver Island accent.
The Australian part.
Yeah.
I've been in Canada for 12 years now. Actually, almost 13 years now.
And did you work in the restaurant world in Australia?
Yeah, I've been doing this for 22. How long over this year?
Well, I remember when
22 years.
I remember when you appeared on the scene, and it was a welcome experience. Because you brought some freshness to what was a little stodgy in some ways. Victoria, other than for, you mentioned him already, Solomon, really wasn't shifting.
No.
I mean, he tried at Solomon's to shift the needle, and it worked for a small crowd, but it didn't make the transformation that we were looking for. And Rialto tried as well.
Yep.
He was there for
he was there for a bit
2
too.
years?
He was there for about 2 years too, and Simon Ogden helped him out there too.
That's
and
right.
I think when Veneto and Rialto opened, they chased after what Victoria was used to, the status quo. When Solomon's opened, it was definitely going against the status quo. I think I took over Clive's maybe 8 months after Solomon's opened, 10 months after Solomon's opened. And maybe a couple of months after Rialto, but Rialto wasn't even a blip on the radar right now.
No, it wasn't. I have to tell you, this is Hugh Kruzel, and one of the things I used to do was go, if I was unwell, ill, not to the doctor, but I used to go to Clive's class, and my friend Shawn would say, "What's ailing you?" And he'd bring me a teapot with a cocktail, a hot cocktail, and it would have herbal-based ingredients,
whatever I had, whatever I wanted to whip up at that time.
And between that and our friends at Rebar, liquid ingredients seemed to cure me. Seriously, you would probably remember that.
I do. Yeah, I remember the fun thing with Clive's back in the day. When I first took over, I left a really good job at Moxie's. I was making good money as the assistant general manager there. And Clive's was not what it is, or what most people remember it as. Like, I remember a solid 6 months of 2 to 3 people on a Saturday night, then that's pretty much it. Like, I remember Saturday nights, me being by myself on the floor, one cook in the back, and maybe ringing out $120. And that's a Saturday night. Like, then slowly but surely I started buying in stuff that I wanted to getting rid of stuff off the bar that I didn't want. I ran up my phone bill aggressively because I would text everybody saying, this is before social media, so you can just do a Facebook check-in and everybody would come down, like, you'd just physically, like, reach out to people. And I would reach out to people and say, hey, I'm on the bar tonight, come on down, try some of the new stuff I've got. And this is when, like, China was just coming out, like, the stuff that we, like, a lot of young bartenders now go, oh yeah, well, everybody's got that, like, just coming onto the market in Victoria and just coming to the market on BC.
Well, Lille wasn't even
Oh,
no,
that was a hard one to get to.
Yes.
So, those sort of things, so everybody like,
Fernet Branca.
Fernet Branca.
I don't think you ever saw that in the BC Liquor Board, except if you were Italian, maybe there was...
No, and in 2011, we were the largest Fernet Branca sellers in the country. And we sold so much Fernet Branca. So much Fernet Branca. We did Fernet Branca and house-made cola on tap. Which was huge, and that was
a very big shift.
Yeah, and the shift really came. So when Solomon's closed and Clive sort of became the beacon, Solomon and Simon went over to Veneto and really changed that. And it was really Clive's and Veneto for a really long time. And then, of course, I left Little Jumbo with Nate. I left Clive's with Nate and went over to Little Jumbo, and we opened up Little Jumbo with a really good team. And then, slowly but surely...
Wasn't there Ula as well? Were you involved in Ula?
I helped there with the rebrand for the Olo.
Yeah, Olo, that's what it was, right. Yes.
So that was in 2015. So yeah, you can start seeing how, like, looking back, I had to update my resume, and I was talking to my wife. I'm like, holy shit! Like, I think that sometimes I think that I haven't done enough with my life, and then I like look over the last 5 years, and it's like 7 bars, 3 spirits that I helped develop, multiple training sessions, traveled around the world, and all this stuff in the space of like 5 years.
And you've had access to amazing things here in BC, like Sheringham's. I mean, that's been a big shift. And Merridale you mentioned, and you know, I mean, I just need to go up island to near Comox Courtney, and they were doing.
I was at Steelhead yesterday in Duncan, which is an amazing facility.
And of course, the beer culture changed totally. Matt Phillips and everything. You've been here during this
boom. It's been a boom.
It has.
And the good thing is that, like,
you're a bit of a surfer. You've been riding the wave. Well, no, you've been leading the wave.
Well, I've had a lot of good people, and the great thing is that
you've got a great attitude about all this too.
I truly do believe that, like, my root of it all is to make Victoria the best it possibly can be. Sometimes when you push, like, you do. Like, I remember when I did Jumbo, we had a strictly BC wine menu.
Yes.
And people thought I was nuts. People just like,
not me.
You have to have...
Not me. That was my place to go to.
You have to have old world stuff. You have to have this. You have to have that. I'm like, but why?
No.
Like, there is a Chablis style from Kulshana that's on my menu. Why would I have to have a Chablis? Right. Like, I really wanted to focus.
Why wouldn't I have Meyer Family Chardonnay?
Exactly.
Yes.
And but now it's the norm. Like, and then when we did Olo, I strictly had a BC craft and Canadian whiskey back bar. As hospitality people, don't we set the tone for what our clientele wants? Like, if you put the time and effort and energy into training all your staff to be as in love with something as you are, then they pass that on to the guest, and we get away from mixed tequilas, and we get away from bad brands or stuff like that, and we put
that it don't express character.
Exactly. And I think BC wines, craft beer, all this sort of stuff, the stuff that Drake does, all this sort of stuff is it's not necessarily like pushing against the grain. It's about keeping the grain, but training your staff to be in that grain, and having that same passion for a certain product that you do.
Did you know that in my conversations with people, most people believe Grey Goose is a Canadian vodka? They don't know it's from French grain made in France by a perfumer.
Yeah.
I think the thing is that consumers, though, are becoming educated. They're
100%.
reading articles about wineries and winemakers. They're understanding who the brewmaster is at. You name the brewer. I mean, we've got an explosion of that. We were the leader of that here in.
I think I may be quoting this wrong now because there's so many breweries in Vancouver, but at one stage we had more breweries per capita than anywhere else in Canada.
And now, because this program is about food, drink, and quality of life, we've touched on all these things, but really we should go to the nugget of it. What's happened in Victoria that makes it, perhaps people say there are more restaurants and more restaurant seats per capita than anywhere else in Canada. And other cities say that's not true, but I'm not sure.
It's a nice tourism model to work on. It's a nice tourist claim. I think the clientele that we have here are highly educated, highly passionate, highly knowledgeable, compared to a lot of other cities in the world. And I think that's the big difference between Victoria and everywhere else in the world, is that people know their shit. Like, they know what they like.
Well, proportionately, perhaps there's more.
And it doesn't necessarily grow exponentially when you go to a bigger city.
No.
You know, like we're a small city of let's say 100,000 people in the downtown core.
And 340,000
spread over like 45-minute drive. But if I look at it as like, if the really nice restaurants, the niche bars, all that sort of stuff get like 10% saturation, you've got a nice little core clientele there that love it, and then everything else sort of spreads from there. But like, I think that's where the big difference is that when you have that sort of core, awesome guest people that know their stuff, that doesn't grow exponentially when you move to a different city.
No.
Like, it doesn't grow to the same size percentage as it does in Vancouver or Toronto.
I want to touch on your sense of that you were sharing about loyalty. I think that's really the word I'm going to use. Many people, now I'm not saying Toronto is exclusively this way, nor Ottawa, but there's a bit of footloose, not a relationship building experience. We'll try this one. Oh, it's the new one that opened. We'll go to that one. Oh yeah, whereas I found in Victoria there is, especially amongst a certain group, you go to the snug, you always go to the snug, you go to,
I think in Victoria, because we do have things changing all the time, like everybody says that Victoria doesn't like change.
Oh, it does.
But it does.
Sure does.
But it does. And like
change is
but the
inevitable.
beautiful, the thing is, I think the thing is, it goes back to that thing. It's a little city, so because there's a big proportion of people who don't like change, and there's a big proportion of people who do like change. Right. It's very polarizing because we're such a small city, and there's big chunks of polarizing
views. If you worked
views.
so hard to develop a response to a niche and a name, like I'm thinking about how Il Covo is over down the end, and it doesn't have what was once. And not to knock Il Covo, wonderful place. I'm hoping it's still open. I walk by; it seems to be closed quite often. But before, there was this thing about it.
I think it. I don't want to say it's, again, social media. Social media is a natural portion of life now. A lot of people open up a place thinking they're going to have automatic loyalty, and that loyalty is like hard. And I've had to change the way I do a lot of things and go back to like the very beginning of my like social media work and all that sort of stuff, because like FTW had a great following. That's a little bit different. So did Cafe Mexico. But like, I've had people go, well, how do you get a following like you? I'm like, touch tables, kiss babies, like constantly, like, and just be constantly posting on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and stuff.
You're tall. You're different. You're stylish. You're engaging. You're humorous. I think those things all work.
I am 100% not in any sort of like.
You're not stuck up.
Yeah, I'm not. I am.
Shawn Soole is not stuck up. He's one of the most amusing people in this industry that I've ever met.
I am very lucky. I'm 6'5", 280-pound Australian white male behind the bar. I completely understand. I've got some serious advantages over most people, but that hard work and that like constant grind and that constant push, and not resting on your laurels is, I think, something that social media does wrong for a lot of restaurants these days. Because like a lot of people like flick through their social media posts and see like Michelin star restaurants here, Michelin star restaurants there, and they say,
"That's not what it's about.
I want that success." I'm like, well, look at the chef. The chef's been doing this for 30 years, and now he's getting Michelin stars and accreditation. Yes. So I think Victoria restaurants, they're successful, and a lot of people are like, oh, well, Brasserie's been super. Brasserie's a pre-internet restaurant. So is El Terrazzo, so is Stanbreeze. And I have a whole. I'm going to probably
they survive and thrive.
I think I'm probably going to do my masters on.
I wondered about this.
Pre-internet restaurants, because I believe that pre-internet restaurants compared to these days, everything's got its pros and cons.
Yes.
And Brasserie had 6 years without the internet. You know what it's like not having... Can you remember what it was like without the internet?
Yeah, yes, I can.
You know, like, so can I.
But
like,
Brasserie L'École did things differently as well. I remember they're the first place I went to in Canada. I'd been other places, but natural wines.
Yep.
they had wines that had not been tampered with. They were wild yeast.
And no one was calling in natty wines or anything like that.
No,
they were like
no.
it was just the way of life. It was just the way it was.
He was doing, and he again. I think what happened there is that people were coming for more than just food.
Mm-hmm.
They were coming for what they'd experienced in Europe, what they'd experienced in other places. And it wasn't that he was necessarily a European restaurant or trying to emulate that. It just was his way of saying, this is good.
Yeah. And it's like Pagliacci's. Pagliacci's 40 years this year. 40 years open this year in August. Like when I sat down with Solomon, he said they were the first place with an espresso machine in Victoria. First espresso machine in Victoria.
First one,
Yeah,
yes.
ever.
When was that, do you think?
I think he said 1984. Like 1984,
my
like I
gosh.
was 4 years old. I wasn't even in preschool yet.
Well, then I think about Logan over at Discovery, and I think over
yeah.
at, but you're right, that didn't happen until probably 94, 95?
At least. I remember Discovery opening. I remember when Habit opened. I've been in here long enough that I remember a lot of the coffee culture changing.
Or maybe it's later than that. I'm thinking maybe it's, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it might be late.
It might be a lot later than that.
But coffee culture is the same as cocktail culture. It takes hard work. Like everybody says to Shane, like, great success. I'm like, yeah, but it's taken Shane 15 years.
And he's opened Sherwood now.
He's open Sherwood now. Like,
Yes.
so you look at all these different things, and like when people say great success, you've had great success overnight. It's like, well, no, it's been 22
Many
years.
overnights, yes.
You know, like it's been 22 years.
Yes.
You know, so I think that's the big difference. And I think the guests we have in Victoria, the restaurants we have in Victoria are all very special in their own way, and we get great attention worldwide.
Yes.
But Victoria's a hard market.
It is. No, I just want to go back. This is Reading Week. This program is pre-recorded on CKLU 96.7. This is Hugh, and you are listening to Shawn Soole. Shawn Soole has a long history in the restaurant world. You're not working in the restaurant world right now.
Yeah.
You still are doing
Yeah,
a little.
I'm still running the restaurant at Pags, so
Oh,
I'm still running
okay.
the bar at Pags. So I've got a really good.
But you're going to school.
So I'm going to school full time.
This is like you're 22 all over again.
I feel that way when I'm in
Or
class.
21,
I
yes.
feel like that I'm in class when
Except the energy level must be different.
I'm enjoying school. So I run Pagliacci's bar. I've got a really good team there, so I'm there 3 to 4 days a week.
Mostly doing training and overview and
Yeah, I work a couple of bar shifts a week.
watching flow.
That's pretty
You're
much
a
it.
specialist in flow, aren't you? You know,
I like my efficiencies.
no crossovers.
No. So my bar team's really good. I've got a really good right hand there called Raven. She basically is running the operations of the bar. I just do logistics. I work a couple of bar shifts a week just to keep my feet there.
And great shoes, by the way.
Thank you. I go to school 4 days a week. This term's a heavier one.
And this is part of a 2-year or 3-year program? Or?
18 months.
18 months, fast
So
track.
I finish in December.
And what will this won't give you more credibility. You can't have more credibility.
To be honest, it's
But it will give you some validation maybe for your next book on redesigning restaurants for the modern world.
The thing is, after everything that happened at FTW and I was applying for jobs, I either got said that I had too much experience to be a bartender or not enough experience to be like an operations manager or something like that.
They don't know you very well, do they?
Exactly. And from a resume, I can see that.
And were you looking outside of Victoria?
Oh,
at the time?
yes. Yeah, at the time I was ready
They
to leave.
didn't know you
I was,
at all then.
Yeah, I was ready to leave Victoria.
I think, though, the bartending world knows you, but I don't think the restaurant world outside of here in Vancouver knows you.
I think I'm more well known outside of Victoria than I am in Victoria.
Wow, okay, I've got that backwards then.
Yeah, like I think this year alone I've travelled to Portland and spoken to Portland Cocktail Week.
Cascadia.
Yeah,
Okay, so up and down.
Well, I was
I-5.
in San Antonio, did some seminars at San Antonio. I'm in Lisbon, in Portugal in May doing a seminar. June is Brazil, that's for another project that I'm working on right now. July is New Orleans. I've spoken at Tales of the Cocktail in New Orleans since 2011. I've been speaking at Tales. So, like, in Victoria, people have this that they know of me.
Well, I know that you've had international outreach and been across the country.
Toronto Cocktail Conference in August.
fall.
I'll be
August,
there.
yes.
So yeah, like I've had good success, but like the things at the end of the day, school is opening my eyes to a few different areas of the industry that I haven't had exposure to, like tourism and stuff.
I was going to say even contact with government, because tourism marketing.
Yep,
the-
DMOs and that sort of thing.
Yes.
So that's my project in Brazil that I'm hoping to do my co-op on. It's creating. They've got a DMO in the city already.
That's a marketing organization, direct marketing.
Yeah. And so So they've got a DMO already, but they've got all these sustainable and eco-tourism things. So we're going to create
I'm waiting for the first ecotourism cocktail. There must be one.
Trust
Low
me,
impact.
This one is a distillery in the southeast of Brazil. It's zero. It's carbon neutral right now. They're trying to be carbon negative this year. It's Cachaça Distillery, and there's a little township, and we're going to do a online travel agent based through the DMO, and brand the city and organize it for corporate training and ecotourism and stuff like that, and set up bundles and stuff like that. So that's a big project I'm working on for summer. I'm just getting the proposal and stuff done sort of right now. So
now, you're still staying in touch with things like IVSA?
Oh yeah, if I can get a chance to get there. Usually it's on Monday, Tuesday in my school, and so on and so forth. I haven't been to IVSA for a while.
Teacher, sorry, I'm going to be away today. I've got to go drinking.
Yeah, I got to go drinking.
Well, it's not drinking; it's tasting.
It's tasting, but
that's what we always call it.
But yeah, so I try and stay as plugged in as I can. Right now, my focus is school. And then, of course, I've got my other big projects that I'm working on as well. So I'm working full time.
And you can't reveal them all yet at this time, but we'll catch up with you again on some of this.
Yeah, like bcspirits.com is my big project right now. It's my passion project right now. So that's like a hub for all distilleries in BC. Mm-hmm. Social media is really big for that. At the end of the year, I'm going to Destination BC, which I've already been in talks to fund a full rebrand.
Right.
And
so that's in Kelowna?
No, Destination BC is in Vancouver, but BC Spirits is based here.
Because there's a big one coming up. There's a lady from Atlanta coming up to do
the Able BC.
Is that
I think that's the one Able BC is coming up to.
I spoke to her the other day. She was wonderful. And perhaps because she's American and experiencing Canada for some of the first times, she has no preconceptions of what it should be, and she's loving it.
Yeah. And Kelowna is a good spot to have it too.
Yes. Well, I said go to a Soyuz.
Yeah.
Go to Oliver. Go to.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to be in Kelowna.
Now you must at school must have some field trips.
We're going to Whistler this year sometime. I'm also going to Vancouver fairly shortly for a field trip as well. Some of the classes I breezed through. I got kicked out of one of my classes this year and got PLA'd out of my class for entrepreneurship for some reason.
Yeah, I wonder why. That's you.
I got 100% on my of a grade and a refund, so I got moved along and PLA'd out of my thing. So that was good because it freed up a substantial amount of time every week. Because
PLA is prior learning assessment or whatever.
That's prior learning assessment.
Yes.
So
you've had life.
Yes, and I don't want to PLA too much because I think
because there's still things to learn.
10 to 15. If I walk away with 10-15% more knowledge than I had before, or like a little structure or a little terminology is a big one too, because like I know XYZ, but it's a terminology that someone else uses the same as I understand it. So I like school. I enjoy going to school. This week, being reading break, I'm going to be banging out like my Destination BC project. There's a college in Vancouver that wants me to do a distillery marketing course, like to write one to put on in Vancouver. I do a podcast 3 times a week now. So I do a podcast 3 times a week.
What is it called?
Post Shift Podcast. Post Shift.
Post Shift.
Post Shift. So I do a big episode on Friday, and then I do little blips on the Tuesday, and then I also do a BC Spirits one on the Thursday, which I do tastings.
Gosh.
I do video for that as well, so I do vlogs for that as well.
Oh, you're a busy boy.
And then, like last night, I sat down with my wife and interviewed my wife for it, talking about hospitality relationships, which was scary as hell.
I think I better come and interview her. Maybe I'll interview both of you next time.
Yeah, so that was a scary moment. We sat down with some wine, and it got very real and very honest, but it was actually very cathartic for both of us in a relationship. And she's my soulmate in rock, so that was fun. But yeah, between the projects, I'm doing a distillery branding and logo project up in Parksville. I'm developing a spirit with another distillery, so it will be my 4th spirit in 5 years. I'm rebranding, doing a personal rebrand for a Food Network celebrity right now in Toronto. The reason why I'm working so hard now is because I'm going to basically, SHC will be my co-op, because in Victoria it's been hard to find a co-op that fits my level outside of food and beverage.
Well, it's a unique stratospheric sort of
I've
world.
created my own job, and so there's no one else that does what I do. At the end of the day, I can't go into a co-op with someone to learn more. So I'm building
unless
some
it was
big projects.
somebody like who opened for Four Seasons hotels.
Which
Izzy Sharp.
Which I'd love to do. I'd love to do a hotel opening. Would be a big one for me. I'd love
big
to,
hotel.
Yeah, exactly, and be outside.
Sort of a Thompson or a Shangri-La kind of
something,
experience.
which is not the easiest thing to do
No,
in
it sure
BC.
isn't. No. Shawn Soole, my guest today on 96.7. You've been listening along at www.cklu.ca, I'm sure. This is Hugh Kruzel, and join us every Thursday at 6 o'clock on CKLU 96.7. You can tune in. Join us. Bye for now. Thanks.
Thanks, Post Shifters. I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you're listening, whatever platform you're on, give me a good rating, subscribe, listen along. I'm going to keep going. I really enjoy sitting down with people and learning where they're from, what they did, and how they got to where they were. So if you love it, give me a good 5 stars. If you don't, give me 1 and I'll try harder.